We'll start with the interactive color wheel handout with all 12 colors, and we're going to be using some watercolor pencils. You'll have the primary colors and the secondary colors to use, and you'll need some water and a paintbrush. It's really important to make sure you're using watercolor colored pencils, not regular colored pencils. And I'm going to start by coloring in just the primary colors. You don't have to start with the primary colors, especially since you'll be sharing colored pencils, but I'm just going to start with those. So I'm going to color in my blue, and I didn't color in all the way because I'm going to be adding water, and it's going to end up looking more like watercolors anyways. So it doesn't have to be totally perfect. I filled up the box somewhat, but it's not completely filled in. I'm not pressing too hard with the watercolor pencil. Next, you'll use a brush with water to turn the colored pencil into paint. So once you go over that pencil with the water, it'll actually kind of look like watercolor paints. It's a good idea not to use too much water though, because if you use too much water, it can bleed together and mix the colors together and run and drip, and it can be just a big mess. So try not to use too much water, and make sure you go over all of that watercolor pencil thoroughly. You'll see the colors become really bright, really bold. And next I'm going to do the secondary colors. So I'm going to color in my orange and my green and my purple. And I'll go over those with the water again. And then you need to mix the primary and secondary colors to create your tertiary colors. So if you need a blue violet, then you would mix violet or purple with some blue. The tertiary colors always tell you what colors you need to mix. And again, make sure not to use too much water that it drips all over the place. Next, you're going to cut with some scissors along the dotted lines of the handout. I like to start by just cutting out the whole thing first, cutting off all that excess white paper around the edges. Make sure you cut along the dotted lines though, don't cut through the colors or anything like that. And throw away that extra paper. Eventually you will have 12 cards. So I'm cutting out the 12 cards. Each card is a different color. They should all be about the same size. Now each card also has a hole, a dotted circle, and you'll punch a hole into that dotted circle using the hole punch. So each one needs to have a hole punched with it with a hole punch. Make sure you pick up all those little circles and throw those away too. You're going to put this together like a color wheel. So I'm going to start with the color red. That's a good one to start with. Start with red and then pretend that you're basically building a color wheel or building a rainbow. So then I would go to red-orange. because that would be the next color in the rainbow. After red-orange will be orange. And so I'm just putting them underneath my stack of cards. So the red is on top, and I'm layering the cards underneath. Now I have yellow-orange. The next one I'll have is yellow. The next one after that will be yellow-green. And then green. Next will be blue-green. And after that it will be blue. Blue-violet. Violet. And the last one will be red-violet. So make sure that you stack those up nicely. Make sure they're in the correct order. Should look like a rainbow. And you should have a hole on the bottom where you can see all the way through all of those cards stacked together. Take a brass brad and you can poke it through the top of the stack of cards. And then you'll flatten those two prongs back so it'll keep all of the cards together. It's kind of like building a fan. If you need to rearrange some cards at all, or you got color in the wrong order, you can just take the brad out and switch them around. It's pretty easy to do that. Make sure to write your name on the back. That's very, very important since so many of these are going to look similar. You might get them confused with somebody else's. So write your name and then your day and period on the back of your cards. And now I can fan out my color wheel. I can make it look like a color wheel, or I could make it look more like a fan. And each card is labeled with the color category. So primary, secondary, tertiary, and then the color name. This interactive color wheel is also a really nice tool if you need to choose a color scheme, so figuring out which colors look nice together. And you can compare them side by side. And then you can also just fold it up and it's small, it can fit in your pocket. And there is your finished interactive color wheel.